Starlight Nights? Shine bright is what is exactly what I say every time I boot up the game to play Billy. Caesar's little brother finally gets the upgraded model he deserves, and this is by far one of the coolest designs they've put on the map. He's got style, flair, cool superhero clips, and is a literal common rider. I'm not surprised he's a rupture agent given how easily he pierces hearts. I mean that literally and figuratively, by the way. Regardless, you're here to learn more about Billy Kit and whether or not he's the right fit in your hands. So I went through everything, lapped some beginner friendly combos, tested some teams, and broke it all down into something that actually makes sense. In this guide, I'm going to show you how Starlight Billy really works, how to play him properly, and why he's a solid rupture DPS you should consider playing. When you first open Billy's kit, you'll be met with a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh card text. It's not the worst thing in the world, but there's definitely a lot of words to basically say the most simple actions can be done. He has interesting mechanics that revolve more around decision-making inputs and combo enders that either build or use his throttle meter, or determination. I'm pretty sure it's called determination. But anyway, those things are going to provide a pretty smooth gameplay experience overall. After that, we'll jump into a few of the combos and strings he has, as well as how to play him in a more general sense to make sure you get those S-rank scores. Billy's target game plan revolves around two basic things first: his core passive and the fact he's a rupture agent. As a rupture agent, he naturally ignores the defense of every enemy in the game, and his stats are based on his max HP instead of attack or anomaly like the other DPS. His core passive is called Knights Resolved, and the way they designed Billy's HP draining mechanic is pretty interesting to me because it's the opposite of both Yidhari and Minato. Instead of draining his HP and trying to maintain it beneath a certain HP threshold, Billy wants to keep it above a certain HP threshold, in particular 25%. This is how he activates his special attack Drive Suppression, which is the bike, and he can't ride the bike if he's beneath 25%. Almost all of his combos derive from that bike. So unlike Yidhari, who wants to recover so you can drain and power herself up, Billy just wants to keep himself in and out of that gray zone. I say in and out because there are some combos that can and should only be done when he's beneath 25% HP. You also typically don't have to worry about dying much since he takes 50% less damage underneath this threshold too. Each use of the bike skill increases his crit damage by 90% up to 2 times. That's almost 200% free crit damage for doing a cool wheelie move. I think that's the largest amount of self-buffing crit damage in the entire game, but I'd have to double check it. Lastly, with his additional ability activated, he increases the output of his most damaging moves by another 20%. Only 1 stack per specific attack can be gained, but that's going to be really easy after you learn how to weave each of these into his combos. With the core passive out of the way, we can focus on the actual attacks in his kit. Normally, I would break down each one because usually there's something super unique about them, but in Billy's case, I believe the best way for me to explain how to play him is to just explain it as a whole because almost everything links into each other. I'll start with the basic string first. His basic combo is a 4-hit string, but only the 4th hit is important. It restores a small amount of HP on hit, a little bit of determination, and gives you 1 stack of Starlight. Recognizing this move and familiarizing yourself with which other attacks link into this move is important. The move that changed into the 4th hit of Knight's technique is called Dual King. That's going to be his normal dodge counter. This move also recovers 10% of his max HP, and a fun fact that isn't mentioned in his kit is that you can actually animation cancel the 4th hit into anything else in his kit immediately after connecting the hit. Normally you would hear me say something about frame 1, but I'm being completely honest, it's not frame 1 because frame 1 is the actual move itself, but whatever, I'm getting into like mumbo jumbo FGC shit. Anyway, this is how you'll see me doing combos like BA4 into wheelie into rocking footwork. Now Dual King itself can be chained into his other moves like Run Wild, which is another automatic dodge that triggers from Dodge Through the Galaxy. Yes, I know he has a lot of moves that sound very similar, but just keep up. Consider this move an accidental dodge for explanation purposes and a combo ender for specific moves. What's that move, you might ask? The name of that move is EX Cool Wheelie. I think you gotta say it like poo quip, poo wheelie. Anyway, it's gonna be one of the main moves you use all the time. It'll automatically trigger after the bike skill called Drive Suppression whenever it reaches max duration or a perfect block happens. It also gives you 8 determination and 1 of his biggest combo starters. Cool Wheelie automatically chains into Run Wild, which chains into Dodge Through the Galaxy, which then can be chained into Dual King, and Dual King can be linked into whatever special move you want. However, you can also start the stronger combo options after Cool Wheelie by linking it into either of his EX specials, high traction wheels, or rocking footwork. Any of those moves can be linked into his enhanced basic attack, Full Throttle Starlight. Think of that as your ultimate combo ender, and yes, you can link Full Throttle into his ultimate or vice versa. Do you see why I said his kit is a bunch of combo chains and button links? Everything in his kit links back into itself, which is amazing for a self-sustaining DPS like him. The beauty of a character like this is usually that you can create whatever combos you want, so long as you know what chains and links into each other. My suggestion is to absolutely sit in training mode and read his move list to reinforce your knowledge on what does what. So Billy's general game plan is pretty simple. Chain all of your attacks together while building determination and release as many full throttles as you can. Billy is a very fluid character. Because of that, I'm going to help you guys start your new gameplay with a brief combo section for Starlight Billy. Billy's combo game is simple to grasp with a decent amount of room for growth. I'll give you guys some of the combos I'd consider his bread and butter, which, keep in mind, these are my go-to combos. They work in almost every situation and still give me that room to get into advanced territory if I need to. Starting things off, each of those combos are listed in a way that I personally use and the situations given. Remember, this is an action RPG though, and unlike other gacha games, Zenless requires players to be a lot more reactive to what's happening on screen. Sometimes you aren't going to be able to pull off a max meter burn combo because the boss managed to iframe your startup moves, or Billy's drive suppression completely whiffed underneath Defiler's heavy slash. A good lesson to pick up learning is being able to adapt in the moment and recover fast. Something you don't have to worry about adapting at all though is his gear. Let's talk about it. At this point of the video, I'd consider it the halfway point, which means I can only assume you like what I'm putting down. Want to hit that subscribe button for me? It's like a reward. Starlight Billy is a Rupture Agent, which is a huge blessing when it comes to builds. There's only one disk drive set for Rupture Agents, and all of them use it. Yunquei tells. After activating an EX special 3 times, the user gains 12% crit rate and a 10% sheer damage increase. Since Billy is always using his EX skills, maintaining that requirement is a breeze. Regarding 2-piece sets, Billy might be one of the few agents I actually like using Woodpecker on. The 8% crit rate helped me change my build so that I could comfortably rock a crit damage 4 or HP 4, and yes, both of those are the strongest options when using his signature W engine. HP 4 might actually win because of the fact he gives himself a free 200% crit damage, but double check the numbers on that. Personally, I got higher scores when using HP 4 over crit damage, but I'm also not a Billy main. Branching Blade was the second option I really enjoyed. Nothing special, it just gave me a juicy 16% crit damage, and with his engine you can get away with that on top of a crit damage 4. 2-piece Dawn's Bloom, Whitewater Ballad, or Famed Metal performed decently as well. Mainly for a situation where if you have amazing substats on them, go for it. Otherwise, I wouldn't make this my go-to build. Lastly, for main stats and subs, again, he's a Rupture Agent. I shouldn't have to go too much into detail on this one since you're only looking for HP and crit. Attack is the next best option, but still not preferred over the others. HP 4 and 6 if you're meeting his crit rate requirements to hit 100% and have a healthy amount of crit damage. Otherwise, run what you're lacking. Physical 5 seemed to be the strongest one for me, but HP 5 works too, and then as I said earlier, HP 6 is the only option I felt comfortable running. Starlight Rider will be his best in slot W engine. With a main stat of 30% HP and an in-battle 20% crit rate boost, it's already helping him meet those high damage requirements out of the gate. Then he also gains a 20% physical sheer damage increase, which isn't anything too crazy. I say that because every other limited S-Rank Rupture Agent has the same effect or similar with their own engine. Most of you, however, will have an A-rank engine called Cauldron of Clarity. I didn't look into the exact numbers and percentage difference this time, but from a perspective of playing the game, it honestly wasn't that far off. You need to make up for the missing 10% crit rate, which means you're forced to run a crit rate 4 or 2-piece Woodpecker, but that's not the end of the world. The stats still measure out the same way. Cauldron was a great free-to-play option to get the job done, and if I didn't care about design aesthetics, I'd probably grab his M1 over the engine anyway if I already had Cauldron. Unfortunately, after those two, that's about it. Radio Wave and Puzzle Sphere are just okay. I wouldn't recommend them at all unless that's literally all you have. Each of them are severely lacking in one thing or the next, and Puzzle Sphere doesn't even give an ideal main stat to at least compensate for the poor engine effect. My honest suggestion here is that if you don't have a Cauldron of Clarity or any other limited S-Ranks signature, you should 100% prioritize getting his W engine if you care about Billy's overall performance. Now let's talk about Mindscapes. For the first time, I'm going to skip all the fluff and straight up tell you the Mindscapes I believe are the most impactful to his performance and gameplay. M1 and M2. Also, don't let that stop you from donating and doing the super chat thing so I can get me an M2 Billy. Anyhow, M1 gives Billy an 18% physical res shred for 45 seconds after hitting them with any of his EX specials. He also starts the fight with full throttle, ready to go. That is a permanent self-damage boost all the time. Next is M2. It increases the damage of all of his main high damaging attacks by 50%, then activating any of his special moves will grant him the turbocharged effect. Reminds me of like Turbo Rangers, just like Power Rangers and Kamen Rider, whatever. It basically gives him an automatic cool wheelie follow-up with a 50% crit damage increase, regardless of activating a dodge or a block. Now what's odd to me is that cool wheelie would activate anyway, and he already gives himself an insane amount of crit damage. The rest of his Mindscapes also increase the crap out of his crit damage. I would need to see the math behind this, but at some point I feel like oversaturation does start to happen. And finally, a section in the video a lot of you guys look forward to, his most optimal teams. Right here, we can smash out some useful teams for Starlight Billy. As usual, I'm gonna break this section down into 3 categories: best in slot, most effective, and free to play. This section is the easiest because Starlight Billy is still a Rupture Agent, which means he naturally shares team comps with every other agent in the game. Now what's really good for creative team flex is the fact his additional ability activates with a stun, defense, or support character. You already know the first team I'm playing in Hollow Zero is Billy and Caesar. If you've already invested in the Rupture comps before, then you're most likely ready to go with his best in slot team: Silly Billy, Dialyn, and Lucia. If you've been playing the game for longer than 3 months, you know why these two are so essential for high damaging Rupture comps. But for those that don't know, Dialyn is currently the best stunner in the game for everything that's not Anomaly. She provides various damage bonuses like a 30% stun damage multiplier, 50% crit damage boost, and a massive additional attack equal to 400% of the Rupture's DPS sheer force. She has a built-in stun duration extender, is one of the fastest stunners in the game, and dishes out her own damage thanks to the fact her impact is heavily affected by her own crit rate. The biggest thing is that signature ability to sling any of her teammates into combat with a free ultimate, which is huge for Billy given the fact his ultimate is one of his strongest attacks. Dialyn naturally synergizes the best with any Rupture agent in the game. Then there's Lucia, who is literally a walking stat stick with a fat ass. Pretty and Green is the key support for Rupture agents right now and is relatively easy to play too, bringing her own access to Ether Veil, a 900 sheer force increase to the entire team, natural HP regeneration, and even more damage bonuses on top of that. She is slightly one of the hardest supports to build though, since her HP requirement is absurdly high compared to the others, especially without her signature engine, but even with that in mind, she's still a huge improvement for these Rupture comps. But what if you don't have the best in slot team? Don't worry, bro, I got you covered. In the event you didn't have Dialyn, I believe Billy's most effective team will consist of Ju Fufu and Lucia. Ju Fufu was the stun agent for Rupture comps before Dialyn suddenly released. She's an off-field stunner with a few pieces of on-field tech and has a big focus on turning her own attacks into chain attacks. She's another stun agent that should be built as a sub DPS and comes with her own stack of buffs too. Huge crit damage boost to the entire team, massive chain attack and ultimate damage, along with the impressive ability to stack up the decibel ratings above 3,000 points. She is currently the only agent that does this, and all of those buffs are exactly what Starlight Billy wants on his team. She's also a fantastic agent that doesn't need her signature W engine to thrive, has an easy to build signature disk drive set, and can work extremely well with almost every attack or rupture comp in the game. Now, I personally think Ju Fufu is going to have another resurgence 3.0 soon, but we got to see what happens. Lastly would be my free-to-play options. Of course, this team isn't the only free-to-play option that exists in the entire game, but it's definitely the cheapest one I can explain that serves its purpose. Starlight Billy, Panda, and Polka the baddie. Pan is essentially your best answer if you don't have Lucia, and at one point was free for everyone to collect. That being said, Polka is actually the agent that's been impressing me the most in the last few months, especially on my free-to-play account. For all intents and purposes, think of Pan as a mini Lucia, but he's kind of missing all the elements that make her ridiculous. He has the passive healing, and he gives a strong 18% sheer force bonus to whoever he launches into battle after his quick assist. He also applies a 20% damage taken debuff against the enemy whenever he hits them, but that's about it. I mean, sure, his mind saves bring a bit more power or numerical enhancements to the stuff I mentioned, but unfortunately, there's no keeping up with that much power Lucia provides. On paper, if Panda received just a small buff, this conversation could change entirely. And with the newly added 4-piece disk drive set Bunny in Wonderland, that helps give him another 18% damage boost to the entire team. Panda overall isn't a bad option and works solidly. For my own results, no matter the end game, I was able to clear it using Panda. That number wasn't above 30k though, and if the stage buff was closer to neutral instead of mega positive for whatever agent I was using, that score dropped even lower. Polka, on the other hand, had way more surprising results. Also, side note, this doesn't count for Yidhari. I know we're talking about Starlight Billy, but for whatever reason, Panda and Yidhari work very well together. Moving along, not only was I able to push past 30k with Polka and Lucia on the team, but I was able to play significantly more aggressively with Billy by using Polka instead of Dialyn. Obviously, this isn't me saying she's better, duh, but what I am saying is Polka didn't really get in the way of Billy's game plan. The only issue I had was trying to guarantee a defensive assist versus Defiler instead of Polka backflipping with her massive tip. Polka does provide her own buffs to the team, but most of what she does is increasing her own damage while helping to stun the enemy that much faster. In the past, I've described her as a mini trigger, and that much still remains true. Overall, Polka's off-field capabilities played extremely well with Billy's longer bike animations, fast cancels, and the double quick swap combos between her and Panda to make sure I could burn the full exhaust in Defiler's face. I was impressed by the results she brought alongside Billy and thoroughly enjoyed playing the free-to-play team more than I initially thought. So what's the final verdict? Is Starlight Billy worth it? And the answer is yeah, kinda. If you already own any of the other limited Rupture DPS like Ishwin, Yidhari, or Banwei, Billy should be a big skip to consider. He's not horrible by any means, but as I've mentioned before, Rupture agents are all one and the same. If you own one of them, you typically don't need the others, and that goes especially for owning Ishwin. On the contrary, if you don't own any others or simply don't enjoy playing them, then Billy is right up your alley. He's a seriously strong DPS who I've seen scores upwards of 60k points at just M0. He doesn't feel like he needs vertical investment, but I can tell it definitely adds a lot of longevity to him for the remainder of the year. We're getting Norma in the future, who's already been confirmed as the next Fire Stun agent, and who knows, we might get a new Rupture support too. So at this point, it's not really a question of is he better than X. It's more about whether or not you want a badass Kamen Rider on your account. Now you've got the combo breakdowns, you've got the game plan and the team synergies. Get out there and go put it to use. Let me know what teams you're trying them in, and if this helped make sense of everything, stick around for more guides like this. Also, bonus for anyone that made it to the end of the video, the first person to send me a recording of their own Starlight Billy cracking 40k using Caesar on the team instead of Dialyn, I'll give a free account review. The whole works. Starlight Billy shines bright with a 4 out of 5.